The morons dumping on Bitcoin right now don't realize that people like them have been wrong 17 solid years. Now, if you're like me, you enjoy the early years of Bitcoin. I love reading the books about the early years of Bitcoin, watching the documentaries about the early years of Bitcoin, and I have read them and I have watched them all. If there was anything that described the very early years when the price was in the, single digits, double digit, triple digits, and even below $1, anything that describes the early cypherpunk movement, all of that. And what you realize is that the things people are saying about Bitcoin now are exactly the same things people were saying 17 years ago. So as you know, I post a lot about Bitcoin on Facebook. And so I post things like, hey, I sold gold and silver to buy Bitcoin at $95,000 Bitcoin, which was when gold was, 4,000 an ounce and silver was $48 an ounce. Which was a couple months ago. I took out a Bitcoin-backed loan on Strike, S-T-R-I-K-E, which I do not recommend unless you can really, really, really afford it, which I can. And I bought Bitcoin at a price of $82,000. And then, of course, in the comments, there's all these morons who are like 5 minutes later or, a day or two later, they're like, ha, Bitcoin's at $79,000. How's that working out for you? It's like, okay, moron, it's a 1-year loan at $82,000. So we're not going to resolve this 48 hours after a 1-year loan. Like, come back and check with me at the 12-month mark because it's a 12-month loan. Same with when I sold gold and silver. People are like, it's not at 95,000 anymore. Again, they don't realize if you go back to the early days of Bitcoin, all the stories were the same. I mean, people were saying, I just sold all my assets and bought all the Bitcoin I could at $100 a Bitcoin for $50,000. And of course, somebody is like, it's 80,000, it's only $80. You bought it at $100, loser. And it's just insane. If you're going to run your mouth on Facebook, you ought to get some historical perspective. You ought to ask yourself, hey, has an idiot said the things I'm saying now at some point in the past and been totally wrong? And the answer is yes. I mean, there's this famous tweet of somebody saying, Bitcoin crashed all the way down to $2.13. So glad I dumped all of mine at $8. It's never coming back. And somebody they tagged him on Twitter and were like, hey, is this guy still around? And he responds, yes, but dead inside. Right? I mean, this is the guy who said $8 Bitcoin is over. It's crashed for the last time.